A man from Stafford's hoping his life story will encourage people not to ignore the early signs of a brain tumour. Tom Shaw was 24 when he started having headaches, feeling dizzy and experienced a shortness of breath. The 41-year-old has since had a successful operation to remove the tumour. From Tom talking about his book, Brain Tumours, Bonham and Fat Pigeons, with Lee Blakeman in the next few minutes.
First, though, on a more serious note, we do get to meet some quite incredible people on this show. Some people who've had it really tough and then come through the other side. And they include Tom Shaw from Stafford, who in his 20s was suffering extreme headaches. After 7 visits to the doctors, he was found to have a brain tumour, and the operation to remove it left him in a wheelchair and unable to speak. He's now written a book about how it changed his life and how he learned to speak all over again. More on that in just a second. First, though, BBC Radio Stoke's Jack Dowling has got more details on Tom's story for us.
I was going to bed with the fan blowing cold air in my face, and I was having slight breathing problems. Then I was getting debilitating headaches.
Tom Shaw was 24 when the symptoms started. Of course, he didn't realise till later that what he was going through were the early signs of a brain tumour.
I'd recently bought my house and I was self-employed, so I couldn't afford to be ill.
Tom didn't go to the doctors. He needed to pay his mortgage. But the head pains started to get worse and more frequent. And it all culminated when he went on holiday to Turkey and spent most of the time in bed with throbbing pain in his head.
I think throbbing plays it down a bit. It was like my brain was trying to force its way out of my skull.
Tom says it took 7 trips to the doctors and collapsing before he was sent for an MRI scan, where his tumour was spotted. A 13-hour operation followed on what was a severe tumour, so severe that if they didn't operate within hours, Tom would have died. He only had a chance of surviving the procedure. Tom spent a year in hospital recovering, learning how to speak again. He's now in his 40s, he cannot walk, suffers with double vision, and wishes he didn't ignore the early warning signs.
And that's kind of the reason for writing this book.
Brain tumours kill more children and adults under 40 than any other cancer. Tom hopes his book encourages people to get themselves checked out if they feel unwell.
If you think there's something abnormal there, don't ignore it. It won't go away.
How remarkable and terrifying is that, the ordeal of Tom Shaw from Stafford? You can't imagine what that must be like, can you? A headache that bad it feels like your brain is literally forcing its way out of your head. It's also a cautionary story too, which is why Tom has written his story in a new book and why he's come on this show, because he doesn't want anybody else to go through that and to ignore the early signs and end up paying the consequences. As a result of the operation, he's had to learn to speak all over again, and Tom's been telling me what the moment was like after the MRI and being told he had a brain tumour.
I remember just standing there hugging my then girlfriend who was in tears, and I just hadn't processed it. I was playing through the words, "We found something," and thinking, I should be reacting to this. What must these people think? They must think I'm some sort of robot, not reacting to it. I was then blue lighted in an ambulance to the hospital, and then it started to sink in, and I did break down in tears then. I was thinking, if they found something, that's it. It's probably the end.
It wasn't the end though, thankfully, thanks to a very, very serious and invasive operation which left you unable to speak, and you had to learn how to speak again. So it had a massive, massive impact on you, this operation. It did save your life. It obviously changed it. Just tell us what it was like having to just learn all of your speech again, Tom.
Incredibly frustrating. Also, I've got a thing called ataxia, which is like your coordination and mobility is affected. Worse on the right side of my body. So not only could I not talk, people weren't understanding what I was pointing at. So it was incredibly frustrating. And I had speech therapists. It was never considered that I wouldn't talk. It was always thought it would come back at some point. So they were preparing me for when I would be able to talk again.
Well, do you know what? We've been having a chat for a few minutes now. You've done absolutely brilliantly, Tom. Honestly, not only to get through this chat, but to go through everything that you've been through and to get to this point and to keep on fighting and to keep on working. You've done so, so well, honestly. Just bring us up to date with how you are now. How are you feeling?
Pretty much absolutely fine. I'm in a wheelchair now, so obviously mobility is a lot different. It also affected my vision quite badly, so I've got very poor sight. But actually, health-wise, I'm as good as can be, really.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Like you said earlier, you brought out your book that you've written. It's called Brain Tumours, John Bonham and Fat Pigeons, and the idea behind the book, as well as telling his story, Tom wants to use this as a platform to encourage people who may be living with an illness or pain and they're not quite sure what the illness or pain is, to go and get checked ASAP, to get a diagnosis and to get the problem sorted at the earliest opportunity.
I've also started a blog called wheelchairworries.com, which picks up on what the book touches on, which is hopefully is to raise awareness on accessibility.
If you want to keep in touch with Tom Shaw's story, a reminder the book is called Brain Tumours, John Bonham and Fat Pigeons, and the blog that Tom has, you can keep up to date with that too. It is called Wheelchair Worries. It tells Tom's story. It's also got a lot of humour in there as well. Tom, you have been absolutely superb. I can't tell you how grateful we are to have you on the show. Keep up the good work, and thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Lee.
Tell you what, we recorded that a few weeks ago now, and it's stuck with me for a long time. The bravery of somebody. We've had a few people on this week and last week when we've been doing the competition, and they've said, it's my first time on the radio, very, very nervous, don't quite know what to expect. Try coming on the radio when you've been through all that and you've had to learn to talk again. It's absolutely remarkable what that man's been through and where he's gone from and to now. That is the absolutely awesome Tom Shaw from Stafford. Again, a reminder, you can find his book on Amazon, Brain Tumours, John Bonham and Fat Pigeons. It's called with the idea of raising awareness for people who are sitting there, maybe with the odd symptom of this, like you just heard there, the odd symptom of this, the odd symptom of that. He was sitting there with headaches, went to the doctor 7 times, and his persistence paid off because eventually they found out that he got a brain tumour and his life was just about able to be saved. They did so just in the nick of time. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming on the show this morning.